Welcome to the Brad and Taylor Show. Today we have Eric Holz.
You're listening to the Brad and Taylor Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to pursue their passions. We're sitting down with some of the best to learn how they got started and some lessons they learned along the way.
Hey, Eric.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Well, first off, let's get started. And tell me a little bit about you. What do you do?
I'm a real estate agent here in Lansing, Michigan. Buy and sell homes, representing clients, and doing what I can to make people happy and get what they want.
I like it. So when you were younger, is this what you had planned for your future? Or what did you have planned?
Not at all. Actually, I had 4 things I wanted to do when I was a kid. I wanted to be a Marine, a chef, for whatever reason, a Detroit cop. I grew up in the Lansing area, so about an hour and a half from Detroit. Don't know why, but Detroit cop. And I also wanted to be a truck driver, and real estate was not on the list at all.
But you're here.
But here I am, yeah. I accomplished 3 out of the 4 of those, and pretty sure, my wife would say that Detroit cop is off the docket, and I'm getting a little bit old anyway, so I think I'm 3 or 4 I'm good with.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
But
That's
Nice.
pretty good.
That's exciting. So you want to do those, and then you ventured off and kind of did almost all of them.
yeah,
What's a new one?
yeah, 3/4 of them, and then here found myself doing what I'm doing now and loving it.
Yeah. So how'd you get into real estate? How'd that come out?
So when I was in the Marine Corps, I lived in Japan, and at the time my sister was going to Michigan State, and we talked all the time. I was never the greatest student. She got all the book smarts. She would agree and tell you that as well. But when we talked a lot about real estate and investing, retirement investing as well as traditional investing, and it piqued my interest, and that's something we always talked about. And then living in Japan, which was phenomenal. Love the country. Can't say enough good things about it. But everything, you jump on a train and go somewhere. Well, after the first few rides, you get sick of looking at it's the same scenery. Okay, so you got to do something. And this is where I first started getting into audiobooks and real estate and investing were what piqued my interest. And a few years go by, and then my sister ended up getting her real estate license, and I kind of lived vicariously through her for a little under 2 years or so, I think is what she did it. And I'd call her constantly and ask questions that nobody cares about. Oh, you're getting ready for your open house? Well, what are you doing? Are you doing this?
Learning all the tips and tricks.
I read, hey, I thought maybe you should bake some cookies so it smells like cookies, and just all this. She's looking at me like, okay, thanks. And anyway, she ended up leaving the industry, and 2 years later, I was done truck driving is what I was doing then. And my wife encouraged me, and she said, we got no reason why not. You might as well give it a shot now. Yeah. And so I dove in, and that was it, sink or swim. And 5 months later, she quit her job, and sink or swim went in, and that's what we both do full time.
So now your wife does it as well?
Yeah, she's my partner. And we run a team with Coldwell banker, Hubbell, BriarWood. And, she likes to say that we met in 2013, and she likes to pull out her list of her bucket list that she wrote in 2007, and realtor was number 2 on that list. So
cool.
She just wants to make sure that, when she was getting into it, she's like, people better know I'm not just following
Check that
your,
off the list.
yeah,
I'm here.
Yeah,
This was on here first?
yeah, this was here before I knew him. So
That's funny.
but yeah, absolutely love it. It's been great.
So with your guys' team, is it just the 2 of you, or do you guys have anybody else on your team
No,
now?
it's just the 2 of us right now. We have had in the past another agent, but currently it's just the 2 of us. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you plan on expanding that at all?
that's definitely a goal. Yeah, it's last year it was a goal, and then COVID kind of did its thing on that. And this year has been good, but it just hasn't happened yet. So
It'll happen when it's supposed to.
and that's how we look at it. We like to have everything in place and build the foundation rather than hiring people and getting them on and figuring out how am I going to pay these people, what's happening here, have that strong foundation. So that's kind of the way we're operating.
Do you guys have an assistant that works with you guys, or?
We don't actually.
Okay.
I've tested virtual assistants in the past, and currently it's just us. And actually, she's had some health problems over the last year, so she's been staying home a lot more. And so I've actually been the one out on the road, but it's been nice because she's able to handle a lot more of the paperwork and the scheduling and that kind of thing. And so
boring stuff, right?
yeah, so she's got to be home and she's doing that, so it's kind of spoiled me, but yeah, So it's been kind of a good system thus far.
Nice. I know you mentioned cookies earlier. At your open houses, do you bake cookies?
I do not, actually.
No?
In culinary school, I hate baking. I absolutely hate baking. I went to culinary school, and that was, it's too precise for me. I'm more of the let me taste something. I'll throw a little this in, throw a little that in, whatever. But baking, real baking, not like Betty Crocker, a cup of this, an egg of that, whatever, is very precise, and that's not me. I like to a little bit of that and just kind of. So no, I do not bake. I don't. Okay. It'd be a good move. I gave my sister all that advice. That's. But there are some other tricks, the coffee grounds and that kind of thing. So avoids baking.
Yeah. That makes it smell like home.
Absolutely. Coffee grounds are a real nice, warm, welcoming scent.
Yeah.
And I don't even drink coffee, but who doesn't like the smell of coffee? There's not many. So.
So you talked about COVID last year. Is there anything that's changed in your business since then, since we got the lockdown? Is there anything that's like a big change you've had?
It's made me more proficient on non-face-to-face. I was always very, like with new buyers that I always like having new buyer consultations, and sitting down like this face-to-face and, giving them the process and telling them, here's what to expect. We've got our 12 steps. Here's the 12 steps from day one until the day you get the keys in the hand. And, it's made me more, my wife will tell you I always drag those appointments out longer than they needed to be because, again, I like to talk.
You got to talk to them.
You got to build that relationship.
It works.
I no longer do that because of COVID. I don't know. I'll probably get back to that in the future, I would imagine. But right now, no. But it's helped. Everything is so electronic right now that it's not. The only thing we're really doing in person is showings and the actual listing appointments, really. But so in that sense, it's been nice because it helped increase my proficiency in those areas. Yeah. But otherwise, there haven't really been any lasting effects regarding what I do on a day-to-day basis and whatnot.
For those first appointment consultations that you guys were doing in person, then you kind of switched. What were you doing when you switched? Was it just like a phone call or Zoom? Or
we would do phone call or a Zoom or a FaceTime if that's what they chose. I found that started to get, I don't want to say awkward, but maybe a little bit awkward, I guess. Yeah. Just because if I'm meeting somebody new and the first time we're meeting is Zoom or FaceTime or something, that can be kind of goofy because
not as personable.
Yeah, and it's just not. So I started doing more of just the phone consults and then outdoors at the home. Hey, we'll meet at 123 Main Street, and then afterwards we'll kind of go over everything that we talked about and kind of get to know them there. So it went from me having this one particular time where we kind of knocked it all out to then it was more kind of, okay, well, we just did this showing, we got 3 showings and we'll spend, 5 minutes at each talking. I'm kind of getting to know them, getting to know what they're liking. And of course, during the showings and whatnot, always asking questions, trying to figure out their likes and dislikes. And
which changes. Do you find that like when people originally talk to you, like, this is what I want in a house, this is what I like, and then you take them to that house and they're like, I don't like that. Kind of changes.
And it's amazing because people think that I think everybody does it. They think they know exactly what they want, and then they see something else. Like, I don't want what? I wanted what? I don't really.
That. Yeah.
You tell me.
So, yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you just know. You walk into a house that might not hit it, and it might not check those boxes, and all of a sudden it does. It checks those boxes, and you didn't even realize it. And so that's why I'm constantly asking those questions, and that's what I tell my clients. Listen, Joe, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Because in my mind, I'm, thinking of all the other homes I've shown, the ones I've listed, what I'm in, something that's going to stand out. Oh, well, this one, on the other side of town doesn't really fit what your criteria was, but it's kind of fitting what you're saying and what you're telling me. Why don't we go take a look at this? And sold a fair number like that. And those are always, those make you feel a little bit better. Like, yeah, good. He didn't really know what he wanted, or but I kind of knew after talking with him. And that, I think that's a big important piece rather than, just what do you want? I want 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a 1-car garage. Okay, well, here's every listing on the MLS. Let's, you choose. Let me know. And
do you find that happens mostly with like first-time home buyers when they're going in thinking they know what they want, and then they kind of change it as you're walking them through the properties?
Yeah.
Or kind of all the way
I think
around?
it's kind of across the board, to be honest, because the first-time home buyers, I've found that a lot of them can be more flexible if it meets, there's something that is key for them, whether it's location or a fenced-in yard for the dog, or I've never had a garage. I want an attached garage. Even then, I don't even have to deal with the snow or the rain or, older clients that are looking to downsize. I think that they're a little bit more difficult to know exactly what they want because they don't really know. If you're going from a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house and all of a sudden we're looking at 1,200, 1,500 foot condos or single family homes, there's a big difference, and they don't necessarily know because it might have been 30, 40 years since they were in something like that. And so, so I think it's kind of across the board for, what people are, the second homeowner, people buying their second home, I think they're a little bit more firm on knowing
what they are looking
for.
they,
for instance, my wife and I, we live in a 2-story now, and we know we will not live in another 2-story. I've got
more criteria as well.
That's just my knees give me trouble. She's got issues. We've got dogs, and so bulldogs aren't exactly the best at going up and down the stairs, especially as they get older. And we've got 3 of them, so that's part of
Nice. But when you first got started into real estate, I know you kind of had different positions leading up to this. Is there any advice that you got along the line or along the way that kind of just helped you through those first couple of years in real estate?
So 2 things that my dad always said to me when I was younger. The first one was, he who speaks the most usually knows the least. Meaning, you walk into a crowded room and the loudest guy or whoever, or girl, talking, a lot of times they're BSers, or they're, the expert on everything or whatever. And, so it's kind of keep quiet, analyze the room, see what's going on. But then the other piece of that is know enough to know that you don't know. And he wasn't telling me, hey, you're an idiot. It was, know that when you walk into that room, you can learn from everybody. And no matter what, even if you're an expert on something, they're experts on something else. So you might as well shut up and learn from them and listen. And that's helped me quite a bit, especially being a new guy. I mean, my coworkers will tell you I talk a lot, so that probably sounds kind of ironic that I'm sitting here saying, he who speaks the most knows the least. I guess that, they're probably thinking, yeah, it's you, but they will agree that when it's a different situation, or, when I'm comfortable with one thing, but walking into a new area or walking into a meeting or anything like that, seminars or anything, it's always just,
feel the space.
Yeah. I turn into, my in-laws thought that I didn't talk for a good year and a half. I mean, they just thought my wife's like, he won't shut up. What are you talking about? Just become like, taking it all in, analyzing the situation, seeing what's going on. And
I'm learning.
Yeah. Now they'll probably tell you, yeah, he doesn't shut up. But, so.
How long have you been in real estate?
4 years.
Okay. Over the last 4 years, what is the worst property you think you've been to? Anyone that sticks out?
Oh.
And you've probably been in quite a few.
Yeah, there's a...
Or showing.
Yeah, or showing that you've been to. Some of those are kind of sketchy sometimes. Depends.
Yeah, there's a couple basements that even I... been like, I'm gonna go down here, but this is a little interesting where it looks like it, you
Maybe
don't know.
Go down.
Yeah, you've been in the houses with the smells. It's amazing what people can get used to living in a house. There's only been one time that I didn't think I was gonna be able to not gag and keep my, and I just, it was a bad situation. But I would say the worst was a farmhouse. I was showing a client a couple of years ago, just out in the middle of a field, and I don't even remember where it was, but I can describe every room. I came out of there and I kept having this itching and fleas just covering, like from my knee down, and we were all just covered. And so I'd say that was probably the worst. I mean, structurally it wasn't too bad, but walking out and covered in fleas and trying to make sure that I'm wiping myself off enough before I get in my car and stripping down in my garage to make sure I don't bring those clothes into the house. And
right, because you have dogs too.
Yeah, so the last thing I wanted was, bringing home fleas and so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But
biting you the whole time.
Yeah, nothing terrible. I've never had the cops call on me. That's happened to a few agents that I know. I mean, there's been some crazy stories that I've heard, but that's probably about the most extreme that I've had. Yeah, I'm good with that. I don't need to, I'm not looking to, that's, walking into houses that have tenants and the tenants didn't know you were coming and somebody's in the shower or something like that. Yeah, that's been, good times. Always keeps you on your feet.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to walk into.
No,
that's for sure.
No, absolutely not. You have no idea. And appearances can be deceiving because you look on the outside and you're like, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
Or sometimes you do get the opposite. I think it's more rare, but where the inside's meticulous and the outside is just, what's going on out here? You guys don't go outside? Just spend all day cleaning in here? Okay. But.
So if you had to start over today, what would you do differently knowing all you know now? Like, how would you start out? Like, let's say you just had to move to another whole state. How would you start out?
That's a tough one.
It is.
Everything you learn along the way is a process and it's a learning experience. So changing that
would almost
take away.
And I have the advantage of, my office is 5 miles from where I grew up. And so, nice. I have friends and family in the area and I know a fair number of people. And so that definitely helped me. My wife was from northern Michigan, and so she kind of came in that situation. I don't know. I think that, if I move to a new neighborhood and, bought a house, if I'm in a neighborhood, I think, or even apartment for that matter, I think, I don't know, spend, if I can afford it, maybe get an ice cream truck or something like that, and I walk around knocking on doors, handing out flyers. Hey, there's going to be an ice cream truck on Saturday from 12 to 2 or whatever. And and just, do that and try to make it, so I'm there handing out cards and handing out, I've done water bottles with my, label on it with my name during neighborhood garage sales and stuff. And I gave those to the neighbors. Hey, here's a couple coolers, hand these out to, the people because it's hot and doing things like that. And that at least gives a first impression. So, they might not be buying or selling anytime soon, but, this business is so word of mouth and referral that at least that way you're on somebody's radar. Yeah. You get to know as many of those people as you can and offer them something. Hey, ice cream on a hot, hot day or whatever, cold bottle of water during a garage sale. If neighborhood garage sales are great because, you can fill up a few coolers, drop them off, and people don't care. Hey, here's a cooler. Just hand, waters to anybody. Have a water. Here's a couple cards if anybody want them. I've never had anyone say, no, get your waters out of here.
I've never heard that tactic before, and that's kind of brilliant if you think about it, just because everyone's going to want that water while they're there, especially if it's a hot day.
Absolutely.
And then your name's right on it.
Absolutely.
Like, wait, what does this say? What is this?
Well, and to be honest, it's, you might get some clients of, maybe they're, it's a neighborhood garage sale or whatever, but maybe they're hosting it because, hey, they're selling because they're going to, they're selling everything because they're going to list their house in the spring or, whatever the case may be. So that definitely helps. And, just getting to know your people that are around you, I think that's best rather than trying to, that's right in your sweet spot. I mean, that's your focal point in life is where your home is. And I'm literally closing on my next door neighbor's house next week. It's going to be sad to see them go, but that's part of it. I built that relationship and they asked me to list their house and it's been great, but they were one of them. Hey, here's this cooler full of water. And I'm like, oh yeah, great. And so, but I've never had anyone say, no, keep your waters. I don't want to hear about it. And, oh, what do you got? Why do you give out waters? And so it opens up that conversation. Yep. So that's probably what I would, water and ice cream, I guess, are the keys to my business from what I'm saying.
Anything to build that relationship.
Yeah.
To work.
Sure.
I know you mentioned earlier when you were living in Japan, the train rides. You mentioned you listened to audiobooks, or were you reading books on the trains, or what were you
audiobooks? A lot of audiobooks.
What kind of books were you listening to?
anything real estate investing.
Okay.
The 4 pillars of investing, the 4 pillars of investing. That's one of my favorites. My favorite book for agents that I think that I would recommend is called The Like Switch. And The Like Switch is by Jack Schaefer. And it just relates. It's very, you come across all walks of life in this business. And I think that has helped me to excel as well, because I can relate on some level. If you're a white collar, super stuffy individual, I cooked for the governor of Michigan, I dealt with these people. Like, I can kind of relate to white collar. Now I'm a realtor and I, wear collared shirts and all that. So I can relate. Oh, you're blue collar? Well, I grew up next door, always spent time on the dairy farm. I drove truck and I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, you're not getting much more blue collar than that. And so that's kind of helped me to relate to, many individuals in all forms. And The Like Switch, that book, I think that definitely helps, because it talks about, I believe he was an FBI agent, and how to get things out of people. And I'm not saying it to get things out of people, but it helps you to learn to communicate better and relate better to people, and how to ask questions so that you can find out, what they actually like in a house, rather than just, oh, you like the cabinets? Okay, that's it. Oh, you like, stainless steel appliances? Okay, that's it. Okay, yeah. Cods, whatever. And so it helps teach you how to learn those questions. And my wife and I've listened to that audiobook at least half a dozen times, falling asleep at night, just having it on. And I've listened to it in the car, I don't know how many times, but it's always new fresh information, not new, but
yeah, you're always picking up something different each time you listen to it.
Exactly. And that's part of why I like it so much. And I think it'd be beneficial to reading it day one on the job, or 30 days before the job, whatever, to help prepare, because people are the key. I mean, if you don't get along with people, this is not the industry to be in, because all you're doing is dealing with people. I mean, that's and even when you're working, you're negotiating, and again, you're dealing with people. So it's people business, obviously.
Yeah. One last question before we go today I have for you. How did your first transaction go? How did that go for you? Was it smooth? Was it what you planned it out to be, or how did that go? Yeah,
it was smooth. I was really happy with it. My first buyer, actually 2 years later, became my first repeat client. So I bought and sold that house, and that transaction went great. The first listing I had, that was a little bit more of an adventure. I find myself doing things, it was a lady had passed, and her brother had called our office, and we always have agents that are, call it floor time, so to take those calls. And this guy came up to me and he's like, "Hey, can you take this floor call?" Yeah, why? He's like, "I'm not going to get along with this guy." He's like, he's gruff, he's older. I'm like, "So why am I going to?" He's like, "Well, he was a Marine, you were a Marine." He's like, "Hopefully," and we got along great. But he was, it was one of those houses that, so there was there was a lot to do, but it went pretty smooth. And that was my first listing. And actually I ended up, due to an open house on 4th of July weekend, which this lady came in and I represented her. So my first sale, I was actually a dual agent. So I was on the buy and sell side of that one. So it was it was a good experience, and it was nice to,
this is how it's done. I'm
like, this is good. Like, so these listings, okay, I could do more of these. Yeah, absolutely. So that's always the key, those listings. But yeah,
for sure, that's awesome. How can people get a hold of you?
theholzteam.com. It's my last name is spelled HOLZ, team, TEAM, just how it sounds, or email theholzteam@cb-hb.com, as in Coldwell Banker, Hubbell, BriarWood.
Awesome. So, I like it. Hey, thanks for coming out and sharing a story with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Are these working?
All right.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. I think they're working. Should we tell them?
Mine keeps falling. It doesn't like my voice.
What do we got to tell them?
Subscribe.
What do we got to point at? Hey, I think there's a subscription button.
It might be there.
It might be right there too.
Somewhere.
somewhere.
Find it. It's red.
Yeah. And it's
Red.
blue. It's green. I don't really know.
It's a color.
This mic isn't even attached. Did you plug these in? Well, I guess,
I wonder if they can hear us.
yeah. I wonder if they hear us. Well, we should probably tell them if they can hear us. We should probably tell them also give us a 5-star review if they're listening on Apple. That'd be cool.
5 stars,
review.
guys.
Share it with everybody they can think of.
We won't take
But-
4 stars.
I mean, Taylor, I don't even think these are on. I mean,
No, I don't think this is working.
This is not working.
Yeah.